For decades, women in law enforcement have shattered barriers, challenged expectations, and redefined leadership. Here at CPD, that legacy continues with two trailblazing women at the helm, our assistant chiefs. Today, we'll dive into their journeys, the challenges they face, and how CPD has evolved to support women in leadership roles. Welcome back to Beyond the Badge with the Columbus Police Department. Today, I am joined by both assistant chiefs here, Joyce Dent-Fitzpatrick and Debra Kennedy. Thank y'all for being here.
Thank you. Our pleasure.
It's okay. So we are coming up on Women's History Month. Actually, we're in Women's History Month. It's March already. February is a short month. And today I just want to talk about y'all's roles here. Like, you are over, tell me again.
I'm Assistant Chief over Operations.
And you're over?
Administration.
Okay. So, Assistant Chief Kennedy, tell me about, like, your rise to Assistant Chief. What did that look like for you?
So, my rise to Assistant Chief, I began my career just like everybody else in patrol. Actually, when I graduated Police Academy, I went into narcotics for a short period of time working undercover, and then I went into patrol, and from patrol, I went up to investigative services to youth services. And I worked in that unit until I was promoted out to sergeant. And then I served in 3 different units as a sergeant. I went back to patrol for about 5 years as a sergeant. Then I went up to sex crimes as a sergeant over sex crimes, and then back to narcotics as a sergeant over a narcotics squad. From there, I was promoted to lieutenant and went to robbery and assault and homicide, and worked in that worked as the lieutenant over that unit, and then I was moved to Metro Narcotics Task Force as the commander of that unit. From there, I was promoted to captain and come back to the police department as a captain over special ops, which was a commander position over special operations, and then from there I was promoted to assistant chief. And originally, when I was promoted to assistant chief, I was an assistant chief over administration, and she was assistant chief over operations, and then we switched about a year into our roles.
Okay, and tell me about your rise to assistant chief.
Same. It echoes what she's just said, but I came here and went to patrol, and then I went to a specialized unit, swing shift. And from there, I went to motor squad as a hit-and-run investigator. And then I got promoted to what we call detective. And I went to sex crimes. And my memory serves me correct, Assistant Chief Kennedy was my sergeant in sex crimes. So we kind of tiered together. She got promoted to sergeant, and I think I got promoted to sergeant out of sex crimes. I did. And then I got promoted I went to the street for 1 year in patrol, loved every minute of it. And I got called back in to go to recruiting for 5 years. And I stayed there until I made lieutenant, went back to the street. And I was a lieutenant on the street, I believe, for maybe 3 years. And I was transferred to Special Victims Unit, where we both came from. And I was over sex crimes and youth and adult services. And then I got promoted to captain, and we both were in Bureau of Investigative Services, so that's where we were. And then we both made assistant chief as captains.
Nice. So you dealt a lot in narcotics, and you dealt a lot in sex crimes, and you also not like touch on mental health, but you are big on mental health as well with officers. Tell me about some of the challenges that you all face as women as you in this profession, in this male-dominant profession. What did that look like for y'all?
Well, I think one of the main challenges that I faced was just how to balance being a great mother and a great wife, as well as being a professional in the law enforcement industry, because of shift work and because of long hours and the expectations, plus the things that you see in this profession. A lot of times they touch on your heartstrings with what could happen to your family. And so I think just being able to balance all of that and not have to sacrifice at home or sacrifice at work, I think that was probably my biggest challenge.
And my balance was, and my challenges with my balance was, I came here with a child. And it was shift work every 3 months. We rotated, and I had to have my family. So, and it wasn't, hey, can I stay on this shift because I don't have child care? I just had to roll with the punches that were dealt. And after I had been here for a while, I remarried and had another child. So I got to see both components. I came in with a child, then I had a child. And so I can say now that we're more caring towards mothers. We're more understanding about the challenges they face and balancing work-life balance and making sure that we serve both our families and our personal life and our professional lives, and we have to strike a balance between both.
You mentioned having a child when you came, or you already had a child when you came over to CPD. What did the representation of women look like when you came?
It was very minimal. I believe the highest ranking female at the time was a sergeant, and I did see a female make it to lieutenant, and I saw 2 females, and then I saw 3, 4, 5 make it to lieutenant, and it was very minimal with women when I came here.
And I think I've been here 32. I'll start my 33rd year in April, and you've been here
38 in April.
Right. So I think I think you would agree that when we both joined, there was not a lot of females, in the profession. But I think one of the biggest differences that I see is that at that time when I joined the police department, you didn't have females in assistant chief and chief's role, command staff members. They were not leading and commanding drug task forces. They were not over robbery and assault units. Primarily what you saw in leadership roles were youth services, financial crimes, specific units where the opportunities for women in supervisory roles existed. They did not exist in those other units, and now they do.
We saw a few in patrol, but not that many.
You had them in patrol too,
many.
but I mean, they those other units that I just talked about, you didn't see women in those roles. They were male dominant led, and I think that was probably the trend across the nation at the time.
Okay. At what point did you all realize you were breaking barriers, though? Because I feel like it was just in the 1900s, maybe late. I don't want to get the date wrong, that women were only allowed to be meter maids. And then when you came in, the highest ranking person or female at the time was a sergeant, and you didn't see them on the command staff. Like, when did both of you realize that you were breaking barriers, knowing that you could surpass those ranks?
Well, you mean to go?
Yeah.
Okay, for me, being 100% transparent, it wasn't until recently. And and I think the reason is just my mindset. My mindset has always been in the here and now, do the best you can where you're at, try to work as hard as you can in the role that you're in, and don't look back. But what forced me to look back is a class I was in that was geared toward professional growth. And so in that class, they encourage you to look back and to look at where you've been to help pave the way to where you're going. And so it was within the last year that I really realized some of the positions that I held were not previously held by females, and it really never resonated with me until that time.
And with mine, I guess it really didn't hit me until we got to this level, that females were very low-keyed on the hierarchy of the police department in Columbus. But I remember being in motor squad, and I was the only female, and I probably was the 3rd or 4th female to be in motor squad. And at some point, I was the highest ranking person in motor squad, and I was a female. Not ranking, but the longest tenured person in motor squad, because everybody at that point was either, I believe we started making everybody a corporal, or we started you just had your place in the motor squad. And then I know with Assistant Chief Kennedy, she was the first female to be over sex crimes. It was always male dominated. And then,
I didn't even know that.
yeah,
I didn't know
yeah,
that.
you were. Yeah, you were. Had never been a female sergeant. And I begged her to come up to be over us at that time. And then the role that I had in special victims, and just looking back on my career, 38 years, I believe one woman was over special victims, and I was the second one, as a lieutenant. I think that was Barbara Wright. She
Right.
was over it, and she was the first female that I saw make it to captain.
Deputy chief.
And she was the first one I saw make it to captain
Right.
and to deputy
Right.
chief. So the roles that I saw coming up, it was minimal. And then when we got our positions as assistant chiefs, it was history, and a lot of people were rooting for us. And I mean, I didn't know how big this was until we just started seeing people come out of the woodwork saying how proud they were of us and how they had watched our careers. So it meant a lot, and it came from a lot of women.
Nice. So in the 30 plus years that the both of you have been here, I know that sounds like a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Like, how do you all feel that CPD did with retaining women, or like promoting, recruiting, retaining women? Have you all seen a change in the years as it pertains to that you can speak to?
I think there definitely has been a change, but I think the biggest shift is that women are now more interested in the profession. None of my friends growing up that were females went into law enforcement. Not one. They all went in all different directions, but none of them went into law enforcement. And I think now it's more common that females want to go into the profession. I just this morning did a read across America, and I asked everybody in the class. This was second graders. I asked, "Hey, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And there was three or four different females in the class that said, "I want to be a police officer when I grow up." And in the past, that just wasn't. You just didn't see that. It wasn't. Even at the high school level, you didn't see that. So I think now that more women are interested in the profession, I think it's easier to recruit women to the profession.
That's good. I can say that when I was a recruiter, and I always had a male or two males with me, and my job was to engage the female population. And this was in 2008. And it was very hard. I was going to colleges, I was going to civic organizations, social organizations, and females just were not interested in being a police officer. Their thing was, and I believe I was teaching at the time too, I just started teaching college. Nobody in my class wanted to be a police officer, but they were taking criminal justice classes. And I said, well, what do you want to do with it? And the biggest thing was, I want to be a parole officer, or I want to just use this, I want to go to the FBI, I want to be an agent. But nobody wanted to come to the street. And so the change agent for me was when I think what really hit me, last month was Black History Month. And I went to about 3 different schools, and I'm telling you, the girls were like, I want to be like that. I want to be what you are. And it makes you feel good, because I hadn't heard that in like 10, 15 years. I want to be what you are.
And I think that's the key, is showing the, number one, the human side behind the badge, but also showcasing the women that are in the profession, and showing what they do and what a life is like in law enforcement, being a female and being in different roles, not just one role, because we all have different interests. So I think that's key for an organization and for our organization.
Representation matters. Let me just say that. And it's really neat that the young girls can see you all leading a department of 500 plus people. That's a big deal. So tell me about, for any female officers who may be listening to this, or any female who may want to join at some point, what like organizations or mentorship programs would you encourage them to join, if any?
But the first one that comes to mind to me is Girls Inc. I think last year, Assistant Chief Kennedy and myself went to Girls Inc. I think we went to, was it 2 or 3 of them? We went to a lot of them. So we started talking to these girls, and then it hit us that we both went to Girls Inc.
Growing up.
Yeah. So I think that's a big plus. And now, our professional associations, is it GAWPS? I think it's Georgia Association Women Public Safety.
Yeah,
I think that's what it means. That's a big tool for me. You feel so empowered when you go around other women who have faced the same challenges and obstacles that you faced. Ironically, when I went to this last one they had, I was probably not the oldest person, but the most tenured person in law enforcement in the room. But it makes me feel good, and it makes me feel more in tune with what we're trying to do. I know Albany Police Department, they have a 30 by 30. So their project was get 30 women by the year 2030. And I went down there last year to speak to potential women who may become police officers. I think that was a great initiative. And they're showcasing women in leadership roles to show them that you don't have to be on the street the whole time. You can do whatever you want to do in the police department if you apply yourself. So that was empowering for me.
For me, well, personally, I would say that just networking with women that are already in the field. That way you get the up close and personal about what it's like. What is it like to be a detective? What is it like to be a patrol officer? I think it's important for people that are looking to come into this profession to understand shift work and how that impacts your family. And it also helps you navigate ways to make it happen, because sometimes you get in your mind and you think, I can't do this because I've got a child and I can't do shift work. But we both had children, and we both had to navigate through the system, and not with a whole lot of help, from many times inside the organization. You had to figure out a way to make it work. But I think networking with other women that's in the profession is key. There's other outside organizations like American Business Women that help women and encourage women to be the best that they can. We just came from a luncheon that was geared toward helping women in the community, and so just being a part of those organizations that can give you encouragement, empower you, and then also to give you what I would say a sneak peek into what it's like to be a police officer.
So, what would you tell any young woman who is looking for a promising career in law enforcement?
You want me to go?
Yeah, I want to kind of clarify that question. What would we tell them?
Yeah, what would you tell them? What advice would you give them? How about that? Is that better?
Okay, I'm thinking. Go
Okay,
ahead.
I would say if they know, first of all, I'd say research and make sure this is what you want to do. This is a big field. Law enforcement, you have just locally, you have police department, you have the sheriff's department, you have the jails, you have the prison. I mean, there's so many opportunities. There's federal system, federal, state, crime labs. I mean, there's just so many different opportunities. Also within our own agency, that's what I love about this job and I love about this profession is there are so many different things that you can do inside the organization, whether it's patrol or detectives or motors or K-9. I mean, there's just so many opportunities, but I would say research, do your research, see where you want to go, what organization you want to join, and then go for it. Go for it and don't let anyone or anything get in the way to stop you from achieving what it is that you know that's what you want, that you've already set your sight on.
I would say talk to somebody who's already doing this. Talk to somebody who's done it for a year, talk to somebody who's done it for 5, and then go in increments to see where those people are and see if this is something that you really want to do. Because when we were doing interviews for people who wanted to potentially be police officers, I remember one of the questions, we say, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? And some of them would give, cookie-cutter answers. I would like to be a K-9, or I want to be a detective, I want to be a homicide investigator. And very rarely you would hear somebody say, I want to be where you are. I want to do what you're doing. I want to be the chief. That speaks volumes to me that you are you're aspiring to be more than just the mediocre police officer. You're setting goals for yourself. So I would tell them to keep climbing and keep looking forward on things, because I would have never imagined myself sitting in this position. And the people who get the power are the people who really didn't ask for it. So I think just the way we were groomed, we had some good people, mentors, who really helped us. And I want to say this, and it may be part of your questioning. We had some great men.
We did. We really, really did. That poured into us, that guided us and shaped us along the way. But very blessed in that sense in this department. Yes. We both were, and I'm very lucky to have the people that poured into us. And they were, a lot of them were primarily men, but they helped us when we got knocked down. They stuck their hand out and pulled us up, told us, brush yourself off. They didn't brush us off. They said, brush yourself off and get back in it. And they didn't let you give up or quit, in their own way. And so we were very blessed in that sense.
So I'm going to ask you all, since you brought it up. Okay, so first we're going to name a meal. I know it's going to be hard. It's probably going to be a lot of them. But I want you to name at least one or two who had a profound impact on you in your career in law enforcement.
You go first, because I got a lot of them.
I mean, if
it's hard
you
to
can
narrow
bend the
down.
rules a little bit here. You can bend the rules here a little bit. Go for
have
it.
the same people.
Well,
name a few. Go for it.
So I think for me, in my career, mentors impacted me at different phases. In this last phase in my career, I would 100% say retired assistant chief Sluchek, who's passed away. He definitely had a huge impact on my career, and retired Chief Bourne had a huge impact on my career at the latter stages of my career. And they poured into me. They taught me a lot, and they taught me a lot about leadership and the hard parts of leadership. So yeah, I'll leave it there because I could probably go on. So that's male, right?
I mean, yes, that's male for now.
And the female, I'll go back a little ways because I have supervisors at different parts of my career that really, really impacted me along the way.
I'm going to go a little bit deeper because I'm telling you, when I came here, it was hard. And I had a very strong male who really just showed me the way. And I thank him for that. And Sluchek was one of them. And he was also my boss at my other job at Chattahoochee Valley. I also had Lynn Miller. All three of us taught at CBCC. But I also would like to say Jim Worthington, because Jim Worthington, he's deceased now, Chief Jim Worthington. He denied me when I first came here. I did not get the job. And I went across the river, and then I came back. And he was still here, and he said, "Oh, you back?" So that he said, "You can do this. You can do this." And really and truly, I wasn't ready when I got denied. Denied, does not mean no. He just said, "You got to go to school, young lady. You're not gonna get promoted until you go back to school." And I was a conditional hire, so they relaxed the rules a little bit to hire me because I didn't have a degree. And he said, "You got 3 years to get me an associate's degree." Well, I already had a lot of hours. I just didn't have a degree. Yeah. And "You in school? Are you in school?" And I was like, yeah. And I couldn't make up an excuse because the time that I went to school and the time I had to work did not mesh. So I had to figure it out. Right. And I figured it out. I did my work at a light pole in between calls, and you had to write your stuff out then and read chapters. So he pushed me, his wife pushed me because she told me a story of how he wanted to come home and give up. And I don't know why she told me the story. I guess because he might have been talking about me at the house. But he said that he just threw his books down and said, I quit. I'm just not going back. And she told him, Jim Weatherington, you better pick up those books and you better get back out there. You got some children to feed. And that's what kept me going. But I could say this, Jim Weatherington was the biggest part of me staying and getting here, this police department. But I had Major Graham, who was a big pusher and a big person to tell me no. And Major Hillhouse was a big pusher to tell me no. And I was like, why? And they just said, you're not ready. And they showed me what to do to get ready. And it's so many more that I could tell you.
Well, and I thought about this as you were talking. I think, too, like for me, at different parts of my career, so Lieutenant Ellison and Captain Turner, so it was there were points in my career that you hit a roadblock that you never hit before, and you weren't really sure how to navigate around it. And so I had Lieutenant Ellison, one in particular time that the impact he made on me was life-changing, and it was his leadership at that moment when I needed him at that very moment, and he showed up. And same thing with Captain Turner. Captain Turner, same exact situation is that, just like you said that Chief Weatherington did for you. I mean, they were just there when I needed them during a specific time period. So, and we probably could sit here of 32 years, I mean, in 38, and think of several other people that really impacted our careers.
I got you.
Can I say one more name? And he's deceased.
Go for it.
Larry Taylor, Sergeant Larry Taylor. This man took care of me. It was like talking to your daddy. I mean, when I was wrong, I knew I was wrong. I knew I messed up. And he would just say, sit down. You want some coffee? And I was just like, oh, just go ahead and get
it over with.
Get my tongue lashing out the way. But he believed in me. And every time I got promoted, he was like, I told you. And that makes you feel good. These men, they weren't afraid to back us up.
That's good to know. That's absolutely good to know. Now we're going to switch over to the women. Okay? You got a name?
I got a few.
You got a few? Go for it. I'll let you go first.
You go first? Okay. So early on in my career, I would definitely say Sergeant Teresa Hudson. She's passed away now. She was huge. She impacted my career, my time in patrol. Sergeant, at the time it was Jimmy Neal Graham, and her name has changed since then, but she...
Leonard.
Okay, yeah, she was, her and Sergeant Hudson was just impacted my career in ways that I just can't even explain. And then and they mentored me along the way, both in a very different way, but had a huge impact on my career. And they were both my sergeants, one in patrol and one in detectives. And then finally, an individual that was more of a mentor that wasn't in a supervisory role was Linda Moten Elliott. And we both worked down here. We've remained friends. She left and has went into therapy, being a therapist in another state. But she has been one to help me, pull me up when I fall. She's also been one to encourage me. And even to this day, even though we're miles apart, we're very connected by a friendship that was, we met here. And we say, we'll be friends, forever, because we share that bond of being in law enforcement. And she's does a lot with mental health and law enforcement where she's at.
That's it?
Yeah.
Well, Teresa Hudson.
Okay, Teresa Hudson.
Teresa Hudson was my, I believe she was the first woman to be over motor squad, too.
I think so.
Yeah, she was a sergeant over motor squad. Yeah. And she pulled me in her office and she said, when are you going back to school? And I was just like, why are these people telling me to go back to school? I already had achieved my associate's degree. And so
they said you got to go back and get some more.
Yes, I did.
She did that for me too.
I needed to. And let me tell you how much she believed in me. She pulled me out. I'll never forget it. Reggie Lewis. We were her. I guess we were children, but I met her on a traffic stop in Phoenix City, and she has a twin, Lisa and Teresa. Yeah. And I went to Hardaway for high school for a little while, and these two girls played basketball like nobody's business. And so she asked me, she said, "You don't remember me, do you?" And I said, "No." She said, "You stopped my sister over in Phoenix City, and you gave us professional courtesy." And I said, "Oh, yeah, I do remember that. That was a long time ago." And she said, "I want to tell you, you got to go back to school." And she said, I said, "Well, I don't have the money." I don't have the money. And when she said she was going to pay for me to go back to school, I knew I needed to go back to school. And she said, "It's a loan. I'm going to give you the money." And I said, "Reggie, Sergeant Hudson is telling me she's going to give me money to go back to school." I knew then this lady she really meant for me to achieve it. So I went back to school. She did not give me the money. I just went back to school. I had the money. You didn't want to give it up. And so I went back to school, and what made me feel so good about Teresa was Teresa went to the DEA, and she asked me to write her a letter, a recommendation.
Right.
And I said, "But I work for you." She said, "No, it's got to be a subordinate." And so she got the job, and then she invited me to come down to Miami. And
Nice.
I said, I'm not coming, but I meant I was going to come, but I didn't go. Then she went to the Secret Service. And every time I got promoted, when I got promoted to sergeant, she came. When I got promoted to lieutenant, she came. When I got promoted to captain, she could not make it, and I didn't know why at the time, but she told me. And when we got the positions that we have now, she did call me, and she said, "I'm proud of you. See, you need to go back to school." She pushed me to go get my master's. And I could tell you
Nice.
another female, that was my sergeant, but there was another female, and Linda Moulton was good too, because Linda Moulton helped me out a lot when I was going through my master's program. But Josephine McClenny, I think she was she was a meter maid. And
We talked about that earlier, the meter maid.
Yes, and everybody thought she was my mama or somebody, and so she just started mentoring to me and telling me what to do and how to do it. And I thank her so much for that, and every other female that I have worked for. And I know this is limited on what you can say, but Assistant Chief Kennedy was one of my mentors, because when I made sergeant, she took me out to eat. And she bought me a little gift, these flip-flops with the pink and green on them. She made them.
Oh, she loves her pink and green,
yes,
right?
Yes, and she made these flip-flops for me. And she also, what I saw in her when she came up, she just embraced everybody. I mean, she was like, there were some people like in her squad, Webster, June Reeves, Sampson. Yeah. And, all these people, she was just like, I got to help them. And I was just like, wow. And then she would make this bread. And then it was friendship bread.
It's the bread. Let's just be honest, it's
friendship
the bread.
And my children just loved this friendship bread. And so when I saw her pouring into other people, I started saying, I think I like her. I think I want to be that type of sergeant where people come to me and really listen to me and rely on me. So when I made sergeant, I said, well, I'm going to use some of, at the time, Bohannon's little nuggets and try to be that type of sergeant. So I could say that you poured something into me.
Well, thank you.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I'm very sensitive.
Look, I
know y'all are laughing.
I don't have any tissue in here, so we don't have any tears to wipe.
We're not going to cry.
Very good. So there are women like at every level of leadership here. The officers, Akia Freeman, the Sergeant Danforth, Natalie Smith, Lieutenant Holland, Lieutenant Hoover, Captain Askew, our sole female captain, who you mentioned was an inspiration to you as well. Yeah. We talked about what we would say to women who would have interest in a career in law enforcement. What would you say to the current women who are here at Team CPD, as we call it? What would you have to say to them to encourage them to keep moving, to keep going forward and upward and onward?
I would say for professional growth. Like I told you, I had not really looked until I was in a setting where I was forced to look. So try to reach for professional growth, something that's going to force you to grow, because sometimes you get stagnant. But also, I think the number one thing for me was internal mentors that are not in a formal setting, because I think that's where you grow and learn the most, because you feel comfortable sharing, and that's helped me along the way. Not just, and it's not that you just have to have one, because maybe, I poured into you in that aspect, but Sergeant Hudson gave you something else that I wasn't able to give. And so I think it's important to network in our own organization and look for mentors in the organization, but also sitting at that table today, I just thought about, there was a table full of women, of leaders in the city, and I just thought about the last 4 years. I didn't have exposure to a lot of the people that were at that table before. I didn't have that exposure to them, and now that I do, there are some women that could really pour into me in a way that I may not be able to get here. Does that make sense? But they're in leadership roles in the city. So we have a leadership program that you just went to, and that is a great way to connect and to network with people both inside the organization, but mainly outside, but still within the city.
And you hit another point too. We have a program here in Columbus. It's called Leadership Columbus. Right. And I went through that, and I just got to learn so much about other people.
Yes.
And I remember when the Law Enforcement Day component was, when it came time for law enforcement to be the leadership for that day. And at the time, I think Donna Tompkins may have been the sheriff. I remember seeing her there. She may have been a captain. I can't remember. But I saw her stand up from the sheriff's department. She was the only female in that leadership role with a plethora of males. And she looked over, and she just did like this, did her little wave. And I said, one day she's going to be the sheriff, and she was the sheriff. And just the fact that, when we network, like last week we networked with Michael's Promise, a luncheon, just seeing people and being people coming up to us telling us, hey, we're proud of y'all. That was today. We're proud of y'all. And just for the fact that they see us out here, and we're human. We eat, we sleep, we laugh, we talk, and we're human. We're mothers, we're wives, we're sisters to people. We're just like everybody else. And I believe last year you went to an event we went to. Was it cancer? It was something at Coleman Gym.
Oh, yes. Breast cancer.
Breast cancer awareness month.
And that was all females, right?
Yes.
So we had to go to different teams. Y'all remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And we had to learn things about people. And I still have those contacts because we laughed and talked at that table. And we need more of that. So that's what I would say. I think at our organization, we need to have, round table discussions with the other women who are in leadership.
Yeah. I think sometimes getting out of your own way, because you can
Absolutely.
say this. I'm not a real touchy-feely person. I'm not one that embraces a lot of these activities that you have to do when you go to these events. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm going to stress over this.
And all the fluff that I bring to you.
So I'm thinking, but I have forced myself the last year because I knew that I needed that for professional growth. And I recognized that as an area that I was deficient in, and I forced myself. I thought about it when you said the breast cancer awareness, because we had to play the game.
Oh,
right.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, can you pull my tooth? I don't want to play this game.
And we had to find partners.
Yes. But that's what I need. And so being you are the one that actually encouraged me to go. I wasn't going to go to that. And all the way to the last minute, she's like, oh, just come on. And I went. And I got something out of it. I got something I didn't even expect to get out of it. So I think just networking, and networking not always with people that are just like you. Network with people that are not like you that can help you grow.
That's a word. And that's going to wrap up our interview today. But thank you all for sharing your stories, and I appreciate it. I thank you for your service, your dedication, your leadership. Thank you for pouring into a little old civilian like me.